we need to understand something. We need to understand the distinction between the government, the people in power, the cabal, whatever you want to call these people. We need to understand the difference between them doing something intentional to cause something to happen versus them setting up the chessboard in a way that favors them to get the outcome that they're looking for. Over the last decade, 2 decades, there have been multiple mass shootings. There have been multiple events that have happened. And a lot of people say, oh my God, it's the government. They caused this. They did it. Here's the proof, whatever. But that's not the way that you should see what is happening. It's not that they're going in there and causing it to happen. Maybe some of them, because if you look at some of the events that have happened, they're very weird. They're very fishy. They're very, the gut feeling you get, it's orchestrated. You know what I mean? But certain things that have happened feel more natural to us. They feel like it's just the evolution of society going in a certain direction, and it seems normal to us. Not normal, but it seems like the flow of it seems more natural, say. The government, whoever has been doing this for 80, 90, 100 years, the psyops that have been going on, the way to control a population, they have plenty of practice to narrow it down and get it efficient, to make it more effective, to make it to the point to where you can't really understand if it is them or not. It just seems like this is the way society is going. So a decade ago, how many people were cutting off their body parts to become something that they are not? You feel how unnatural this is, how unnatural it feels, because it's a narrative being pushed really hard. Certain shootings that happened, certain people got in trouble for it, and they said, oh my God, how could you say that the government did this? They had somebody, stage actors come in and did this. I'm not saying that they did. What I'm saying is the difference between them having some kind of agent come in and do a scenario versus them orchestrating the game board to get people to come in and do it for them without realizing that they're just a pawn. A lot of these people on the left and right, but mainly on the left, a lot of them are very book smart but stupid. They have no common sense, and they have their head in the sand, and they don't want to wake up, and they don't want to believe. And then you have people on the right that are so over, extreme with their political party, and they think some guy is going to save them. It doesn't matter if we go left or right, we're still going in the same path. This is all planned out. For decades, this has been being planned and being orchestrated to funnel us in. And even so, even if Trump is your savior, even if he is there to liberate everybody and save the world, what happens in a couple years? What happens with midterms? It goes right back to the opposite side. Or it gets worse. So it doesn't matter which way it goes. Both parties are being, we're both being played. We're both being lied to. Where's the Epstein shit? Where's any files like that? We've been distracted with aliens and Martin Luther King documents and a little bit of JFK, all redacted, blah blah blah. New wars, more pandemics. We're being distracted over and over again. Those are the intentional things, the psyops that are intentional to push a narrative to make us react in a certain way. And when we when we react in a certain way, whether good or bad, when it's bad, they're like, oh my God, another shooting. We have to crack down on gun laws. That is what they want. That is what they've wanted all along, is to take away your right to protect yourself. And they can't do that because we have a constitutional right that says that we can defend ourselves. So what happens? They don't go in and stage massive things to happen. Not all of them. Maybe some. I don't know. But they get the conditions set right for people to be unhinged. All these people taking antidepressants, all these people being confused about who they are and being suicidal. They get these people to act a certain way for the conditions to be right for them to do something. They know it would happen, it will happen. They don't know where, when, what, whatever. But they know it's a matter of time before somebody does something. And when one person does it, oh my God, they had a disease, they were dysphoria, whatever. They seem like the victim in this scenario. The media makes these people to seem like they're a victim of bullying or whatever. I got bullied in school. I'm not going to go hurt anybody. It's life. Shit happens to people. It happens to everybody. But when you are deemed, disabled, and people look at you and they're like, hey, look at the disabled person. Everybody wants to be disabled now. There's people cutting off their legs to be disabled because that's how they identify. I read an article about this lady. I can't remember if she got her eyes removed or just permanently damaged, to where she's blind now because she identified as a blind person. There's people identifying as anything and everything or whatever. For what? For what reason could you possibly do that? Other than to have attention, to seek validation from people that don't give two shits about you anyway. But they want you to feel special, and when you don't feel special, you act out. Look at the children. When they don't get their way, they act out. And if you coddle them and if you let them get their way, they become worse and worse. I read another article about I think it was a son, and he wanted to do something, and the parents said no, and the kid shot and killed him. You need to whip your kids' ass when they're little. You need to discipline them, put them in the corner, make them write sentences, take away their phones and tablets, or at least minimize the screen time to where they're not on it 24/7. They got pacifiers for babies. Now they have tablets for babies. Now they have pacifiers for adults, and that's a normal thing now. To pacify you, to coddle you, to make you feel special and wanted. And when you don't feel that way, when you're not getting that constant dopamine hit, people get unhinged and they go crazy. We don't have anything to do anymore. We're bored. People have no goals that set to do anything, and we're going crazy because we don't have a purpose. This is all by design. This is one of those things that it feels natural while it's happening. Like 2020, we could all feel it. Most of us could feel it. There's a lot of crazy dumb people out there, sure, that went along with it, but most people that I talked to, that I knew, they could feel something was wrong, so it didn't work. That push, that unnatural feeling that they tried to use did not work. Certain events that have happened in the country, you can feel it. You know what I mean? That there's a weird gut feeling that we have that say, hey, this ain't right. But other things that the government does, we don't really notice it. We might notice it a little bit, but we say, people are just weird. People are just, whatever. And it's that frog in a pot mentality of, not realizing it until it's too late. And that is what the government has been doing. The cabal, whoever owns and controls the world, whatever you want to call them, they've been doing it for so long. They're so good at it. Most of the things that they do, you can't pin it back on them, with evidence, with facts, because they don't do it directly. They do it through people. They control the media. They control the pharmaceutical industry. They control the sports, your entertainment that you get distracted with. They control all of that. They want you to buy into it over and over and over again, to where you stay dumb, you stay distracted, you stay on their medicine, you stay obese because you eat their food. You need to be aware of what's going on right now. There are some crazy things going on in the world, sure, man. But you need to get out of it. You need to be set apart from it, like the Bible tells us to. Be set apart from what's happening. There is a huge difference between what is being aware of what's happening and understanding why it's happening, but also realizing what you do isn't really going to do much. Maybe at the local level, sure. But that involves you, me, and 500,000 people to do something. And if you think 500,000 more people are going to do something, it's not, it doesn't look too good for us. What you need to do is get out of the system that they have you trapped in, and how your parents were trapped in it, and your grandparents were trapped in it, and don't have your kids trapped in it either. Pull them out of that system and teach them how to be normal, caring, loving, defensive people, to where they can defend themselves. What's going on in DC right now? Trump just federalized the police. This is a snowball effect. They need it to happen. They need something to happen. They can't just come in and do it. They can't just come in and do their plan because we'll see it and we'll rise up and we'll say, hell no, we're not going to go along with this. But if they push over here and push up here and tap over there and poke under here, eventually, one day, somebody's going to say, I'm sick and freaking tired of this. And they're going to push back. And as soon as they do, the government's going to say, see these dangerous people here. We need to do something about it. They're going to crack down on it. The right saying, hell yeah, clean this mess up. A bunch of homeless people sitting around. A bunch of anarchy. And then you got the left over here saying, oh my God, it's Hitler. What was that Chaz Chomp thing where the people took over a city for a couple weeks or whatever? Or a block, or a city block? But they didn't know how to do anything. They didn't organize, plan, whatever. Warlords walking around. What this stupid shit, man. They let it happen a little bit. They entertain the idea. They let that shit happen for a little bit. And then the left rises up and says, oh, we could do it. We could do it at a bigger scale. They test the waters. With certain psyops here and there, they test the waters to see the reaction, to see how the population reacts to it. If we react too negatively, they change it up and they do it a different way. And they keep doing it different ways until one day we don't have a reaction. Either because we're too desensitized to it, or we just don't care anymore, life's going on. But they'll do it over and over again. There's no stopping them until our reaction is the reaction that they want. How many people are up in arms now? Yeah, we need gun control. Yeah, we need to get rid of God. How many people are like that now because narratives have been pushed against certain people or certain tools that we have? How many people hate guns right now? I've never picked up a gun because they've been brainwashed into thinking that they are these evil things that walk around on their own and shoot people. When in fact, who you should be blaming is the pharmaceutical industry that got the person stuck on antidepressants and went crazy, or the brainwashing that goes on with the TV or the video games and all this stuff, all the brainwashing that's been going on, and then, crazy events happen in the world. It's not a tool's fault. It's not a spoon's fault because you're fat. It is, I've heard that so many times. It's not the car's fault that you got in an accident. It's the event that led up to the event that happened. But we want to blame other stuff. We don't want to take accountability for our own actions. We need to start taking accountability. We need to start understanding why what's happening is happening. We need to get out of it. If you live in a big city, you need to get out of it. I don't have enough money to prep. I don't have enough money to save. If you got enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes and buy coffee every freaking day and eat out every day, and go to the movies every day or every other day or once a week, if you have enough money for that, you have enough money to start. You go to Aldi's and buy canned food for 75 cents a can. Tell me you can't do that. You can't buy a week's worth of vegetables for the same price as a coffee for the day. Can of green beans is 75 cents. A bag of rice is a couple bucks. You have a couple days worth of food right there. But you would rather have your pack of cigarettes, or you'd rather have your coffee, or you'd rather have a Big Mac. If you cannot afford, if you're buying crap that you don't need and complaining about prepping is too hard, you're not going to make it in a scenario. And a lot of people aren't going to survive anyway. I watched this video. There's a couple people around a grill. It was a propane grill. And there was, I think it was a grease fire. There was 3 people there. They had a fire extinguisher, but they couldn't figure out how to pull the pin to put the fire out. Makes no sense. I mean, I guess I could see them being panicked and freaking out, not being able to comprehend. The brain's not working to actively resolve the situation. But that is a huge problem that we have, is most of Americans we don't have any conflict in our lives. You know, something stupid might happen and you might get a little upset about it, but you don't resolve the situation. You just forget about it and move on to something else. We don't deal with situations like other countries do. We have it so good here that when things happen, we freeze up. That flight or fight response that we have neither. We just sit there and look dumb. A bear attacks us and we curl up in a ball. That's the mentality. Yeah, that might be a bad example because apparently that's what you're supposed to do. But you know, you're being robbed. What are you required to do by law in some states? You're required to flee your home in some states. They make it so hard for you to defend yourself. They make it so unavailable to take charge of your own life. You can't do this, that's illegal. You can't do that, you'll get a fine for that. God forbid you collect rainwater. God forbid you have a garden or you have chickens. You can't have that, they got diseases. You're going to contaminate everything. Otherwise, all that stuff was a lie. All those, cullings of millions of chickens, that was a lie. All the cattle that they killed, that was a lie. All the pigs they killed, that was a lie. There's fire after fire, there's earthquake after earthquake, flood after flood. But all the people in charge are buying up all the land. All the people that lived there for years and years and years are getting kicked out, and they got $750. Otherwise, BlackRock's turning around and buying everything. Investors from other countries are turning around and buying everything. You got Chinese buying farmland right next to military bases, and you can't even afford a single wide trailer because it's $250,000, and you're made to believe that you're safe. You're not safe. You're being controlled. You are being manipulated. You are being twisted into thinking that you're safe. We are not safe in this country. We have no liberty in this country. It is time for us to take that back. Get out of this system. Things are getting weirder and weirder every day. We're never going to go back to being normal. We're never going back to a normal, whatever you want to call the normal. Even if it, the 90s, the 80s, the early 2000s, if that was normal to you, I'm sure the people prior to that were saying this is not normal. if I had to put a number on it or a date, I'd say normal is back in the 1800s or 1700s, where everybody lived the same no matter what, except for high royalty. And I'm sure 20 years from them, you know, some new wheel came out, like, oh my God, look at this new technology. It is always changing. There's never normal. It's always moving forward. Whether it's moving in a good forward or a bad forward, that's a totally different debate. But it's always changing. We are always being controlled. The main point of this video was to explain the difference between the two, of the government actually facilitating an event to happen and them going out and actively causing it to happen. And I went on to a rant, I'm sorry. But the things that are happening, it doesn't matter if they are making them happen through an actor or if they're making them happen through you and me. The whole point of that is to let you know that they are actively making things happen, and we are playing into it every day. Every time you make a stance on it, you are playing into it, and you need to stop making a stance with it and just get away from it and leave it alone. It's like somebody yelling at you to get a reaction out of you. The little brother sit there and I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, and it pisses you off, and you want to get away from it but you can't because you're stuck in the car with them, and you turn your head and you ignore them, you put your headphones on, and you close your eyes, and they keep doing it, and they keep breathing down your neck. Finally you turn around and fucking smack them in the head, and then you get in trouble. And then the parents, the government, turns around and says, oh my God, how could you do that? And then you get your ass beat because you defended yourself, and your brother turns around, sits there and laughs in your face. Ha 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 ha. That is the same thing that's going on right now with all these children in charge, with all these children on the left, all the children on the right. That is what's happening right now. I need y'all to understand that. Y'all have a great day.